Welcome to Direct Bird Products. I'm Shane. Today is, as promised, part 2 of the Derek Oldknow film. Great things in this video and plenty to learn. And it's been asked a few times, when is the second part going to be on? So definitely a few guys waiting to watch this. Action-packed, same as the first, and it goes more into like exhibiting birds and things like that, and birds later on in the season. The first part was more about breeding, but like I said, a brilliant watch still. So sit back and enjoy it.
Now this is a bird. This is an half-inch cock. This is a bird we used to show in quite a few numbers. Now alas we can't show. It's the biggest finch that there is. I know that we experience when they get hold of your finger end, you come out with some verbal abuse. They've really strong beaks. When you catch them up and they get hold of you, by gum, don't you know it? This is say an half-inch cock. I had it paired with hen, but it did show a hell of a lot of aggression with hen. Hen wasn't quite fit enough, so I had to abandon this pair breeding. Hen wasn't fit enough. You can see he's come really blue beak. This is going on to bramble. This is a bit unusual. This is an unusual bramble cock with a pied head. Brambles make really good shorebirds. Yeah, a bird, it's advisable to keep just a pair in one aviary. They're not type of bird to mix with other birds. They're part insectivorous, and they are territory birds. They have a beautiful courtship when they're displaying. Very unusual, very beautiful when you see them. A good bramble cock has some really nice markings, striking colour and flank markings and spangling and V marks on its back. There's a lot of things to look for in a good bramble cock. A brambling or a bramble finch, whichever you want to refer to them. Very hardy bird to live a good age. You can expect to have a bramble for 6 or 7 years, even longer. If you're breeding these, you've got to be patient with them. You've got to be patient of time. This bramble hen does go to nest, but we're unsuccessful in rearing chicks. That's where the nest is there. Just can't see it. Just see a red out of sight there. We go on now to linnets. This is a pair of linnets. Nice cock actually, furthest away. That's cock there and in foreground. Very nice lace cock. It's not quite showing his type. He's crouching a bit with light and camera. But this is a nice example linnets. Nice, well laced, and a nice cone shape. Linnets are ideal bird for muling with as well. Probably second easiest bird to mule with besides behind a goldfinch. They aren't ideal cage birds. They are a tendency to be a bit unflighty. That is the nature like. But you've got to allow for that in linnets. But they are a long living bird again. You get a nice linnet cock that sings. You get him singing. He'll sing freely. And it is a beautiful song, a linnet. Again, in a shorebird, we're looking for that colour and them lacings. Cone shape, good top end on it. Mix freely, you can put them in a mixed aviary. They don't show very little aggression to other birds, so they're an ideal bird to begin because they mix freely. pair of linnets. Cock's starting to relax a bit now, see, now he's showing his type better. Here are some young linnets. 2 young linnets. Same again as siskins and golders in pate feather. They don't get the full mature feather while they have the first moult. These turned out to be a pair. You can just see it, white flight feathers in that first bird. That's a cock and hen. That's the best way how to tell them. And then when they get the full colour, you'll see a moon shape on the breast in the feathers, like a moon shape, half moon shape in the breast. That's how to sex a linnet. Fairly hardy. They don't suffer from many diseases. Fairly hardy.
You got some mealworms then, Barry?
Yep, I've brought you some minis today, Derek. And these are about a third of the size of normal mealworms.
They keep getting a bit bigger though, them. Them pricing healthy, aren't they? No darkness amongst them.
No, that's how we always send them out. I'm afraid there's a few of them. When we send them in the post, there's always a few that get overheated, but when I bring them to you like this, obviously it's easy to get them perfect. Regular mealworms are about 3 times as big as that, and your giant mealworms are about 3 times as big as your regulars.
And you've got these giants breeding alright now then?
Yeah, no problems at all. What sort of birds would you feed your giants to?
Very few. Odd jays and magpies may take them, but I generally find these minis are ideal for type of birds I keep for mealies and small soft bills for red starts and wheaties and that type of thing. Buffalo worms are alright for titbits, which you do a few of them, don't they, as well. I don't feed a lot of buffalo worms, but the first 4 or 5 days they hatch, I feed a few buffalo worms then. And then crickets I find a nice like. There again, just titbits. Blackbirds, them white blackbirds and cinnamon blackbirds, I usually start them off as well like. But the basic feed is mealworms. There's no disease with them, they're always healthy, and I think they're good value for money. Like. Save a lot of collecting other wild food, and all I ever feed is just mealworms.
Well, of course, they're a lot more reasonable in price than buffalo worms, and of course, they travel so much better. Because people buying buffalo worms from the post is so difficult to keep, they get so hot, and they eat their way out of the boxes, and it's always a problem, and much more expensive. So, you'll find that for most of the time, mini mealworms are the answer to...
Ideal for finches that we feed, yes, ideal, yeah.
And how do you decide how many mealworms you're going to feed?
If you're feeding young ones, it's stood at them all the time, as much as they can eat. You will find as well, if you put some mealworms in, they may not eat them for a fair long period of time. As young ones get older, parents will start to feed them. So if somebody buys some mealworms from you and puts mealworms in them and they don't eat them, keep persevering, keep mealworms there all the time, because you'll find that bird will come on to eating mealworms eventually.
That's right.
So a lot of people put mealworms on, then say the bird's not eating them, but it's not time for when bird wants to eat them itself, right? So you must keep mealworms on.
And do you find a specific need for the regular mealworms as opposed to the minis, particular birds?
Regulars are a bit cheaper, so I generally feed regulars to tushes and blackies and that type of thing in jays, and I usually keep minis to bullies, mealy redballs, siskins, lesser redballs. Bullies occasionally eat them, whites very occasionally eat them as well, like, and all softbills, red starts and wheat deal and all the other softbills, and all eat them. It would be really nice, they always seem to pick white ones. It would be really good if we could breed them with a soft skin, with white ones, these white ones. I know at times I've asked you about this, you always seem to laugh and say,
well, I've given a lot of thought to it, Derek, but you see the problem is the white ones that are white now, in 3 hours' time, they're going to be golden. So if I sent a sample of mealworms out that were totally white, by the time they arrived to where they were going, they'd be totally brown. So it's an ongoing thing. It's part of the breeding process. And to halt that, we'd probably have to use some sort of chemical method. And that, if we start playing about with chemicals, you're risking damaging your birds again, aren't you?
One good thing, since you started doing this, most of the mealworms now that sell, they're all bred in this country, where before they were all imported. So I suppose you've done one good thing to British prestige.
Well, we do our best. Plus, you're getting the freshness. It's people who buy these worms do tend to find that they can keep them longer. Do you have any problems keeping the worms?
Very rare. You mustn't put them in sun though, and don't overeat them. When you get them, take them out and put them in a low dish. Don't put them more than an inch and a half thick.
Yeah.
That's important. And keep them out of the sun. If any is lost, odd times I've rushed in and put them on window and I have lost on. That's been my fault. Keep them in shade and don't put them more than an inch and a half thick.
So in other words, keep them cool and keep them shallow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty well what we instruct people to do, and I think so long as they can do that, there's no reason why people can't keep mealworms for what, 4 or 5 weeks, is there? What, you did mention crickets. How do you feed your crickets without losing a lot and getting your place infested?
Well, I put them on water. When I'm going to feed them, I put half into a dish of water, about into water, so they can't jump. There's no pressure to jump off the water. And then a few more, I put them in a high-sided dish, about 6 or 7 inch dish like that. When they first put them out water, they just float, they don't move, but birds get used to that and pick them up.
Because you know slow them down by cooling them off in your fridge.
But it's usually summer when I'm feeding, right? So within 10 minutes I'll be back at the office now. But I find them really good. I find them good.
It's particularly if you get something that you're having
something having problems clearing.
Yeah. You don't think that there's any requirements as far as the bird trade is concerned for these new supergiant mealworms that you've started doing?
Well, I suppose there would be with variation in big birds and jays and magpies, but I couldn't imagine a little lesser effort picking a mealworm which is big as itself and eating it.
Yeah, they are big. But the advantage to them, the only thing that I thought might make them attractive is like the buffalo worms, they wriggle very quickly. More quickly than our own giant mealworms. But they are certainly big. Have you found it more convenient since we started handling these multivitamins, Derek?
Yes, very. Yeah, very good these I find. Very good. All these are all range OCVit.
That's OCVit, that is the multivitamin, it's the best seller. Do you apply that all year round?
I feed that 12 months out a year, yes, all the time. I feed it twice a week, 2 days a week.
And the OC Phytol there, that's the what they call the green vitamin, which is supposed to eliminate the need for feeding green stuff through the winter. Do you find that works?
That's basically the most convenient thing there is. It's all in a bottle, and I simply just squeeze it into water, and all through winter I have no greens to find at all. I just feed cheap weed breeding season in the pot. Rest of the year I feed no weeds, no vegetables or anything.
Very convenient.
That's all vitamins and everything that birds get out of natural type of food are in a bottle. So in winter when it's frosty and cold, you get your vegetable matter there all the time in a bottle.
OC Mu, now that's vitamins and amino acids for molting birds, yes, isn't it?
This time of year I do feed that a bit extra, and that's as well. All mix, all 3 or 4 together, all together.
Slightly unpleasant smell to that one.
Yes, yes, it is.
The amino acids have got a sulphur base, but it's the sulphur that smells. Now the OC choline there, that's particularly effective. It's a preventative for enteritis and hepatitis, isn't it?
Yes, that's a problem that we find with feeding type of birds that we keep. They get a bit too fat, excess weight, and that helps enteritis, to combat enteritis, and that's his biggest enemy. Birds going off weight with enteritis, so that's really a must. Like, I don't feed it quite as much in showing season. Because I'm trying to put weight on birds to show, but after Christmas time when I finish showing, I feed a lot of that. Yeah.
And how do you apply? Do you apply all those together when you...
I mix all those together. just simply fix my feeding bucket up and just put all recommended dosages on. It's all simple, all the same, I just mix it all together. Oxycoline, most of it, under taps, and just simply go down the water. Easiest thing there is.
And for the enteritis, the hepatitis enteritis, that's your preventative, but what about when you get more serious cases?
When you go more on to antibiotics, we tetradomycin, automycin and different antibiotic groups. That's the thing that's, we've got to get more aware of these problems with enteritis. The first really sign is that bird starts to sit a bit soft, he swells up on back of its end, and when you catch bird up, catch it up and blow on its back on its vent, and you'll see it starts to swell red. Yeah. And then it turns to blue and inflamed, and then your bird starts to lose weight and it swells and puffs up. If you get antibiotics on early enough, just tetradomycin, that should do the trick like. But that sometimes leads on to going light, Lancastosis and coccidiosis. Well, I send away for these antibiotics, and this oxycoxylate has really good light.
That's for coccidiosis.
Yes.
And the other things I noticed you must have sent away for those as well. The ocimycin.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I feed these to young birds. When I take young birds away from adult birds, put them on this all the time, about 4 or 5 drops to a small drinker, and then when birds have started to moult, I stop feeding them. As well, this ocimycin, this is for egg sac infection, E. coli, and this is something that's really come to light in recent years, and it's a bacteria that adult ends, and this bacteria is passed on through embryo, through egg and through embryo into chicks, and chicks die from 5 to 7, 8 years old. And you can usually tell when they've died with egg sac infection that the food doesn't stop in the crop, and the smell after they've died.
Yeah.
And I treat this about February, March time, and you get really better success. You lose very few chicks in nest. There's only one lot of chicks I've lost this year, and this was an aviary which I didn't feed this. All the rest of birds I fed this, and I've lost no chicks of egg sac infection.
So in other words, you're preventing mortality in the nest by treating the breeding birds in advance. I understand. I notice you've got a wormer there as well.
Yes, worming as well, yeah. That's something that very few people do is worm. British birds, and I worm twice a year. It as well, it helps to clear urine crystals on vent as well, and some birds have bad build up a urine crystal on vent, and worming pepper rhizome as part of that one.
I understand. I notice last bottle you've got there is a carousel.
To mix this colourful red berry, just simply fill this cap at 3/4 full.
Right.
That's how much I mix. And then I get kettle. And I put 1/4 inch of cold water in kettle first. Put my colourful red ready. Then I let that soak overnight in cold water. Then 12 hours after, I get kettle, boil it up. You see. And then I mix it in. When it's boiled, mix that in, fill it up, let it cool. That's important, let it cool. And then I dilute that amount, nearly a full cup, into 4 of these bottles. And then I mix it up so it's all mixed equal. Then I feed it to all birds. I feed it to males and ibers mainly, and red and brown based birds. Bullies, reptiles, brambles, chaffies, linnets, whites, and you only feed colourful red to that. Siskins and goldies, greenies, and birds green colour background. I don't feed any at all. As well, when you let it, when you're feeding it, it's important to mix this fresh every day. That's one of the most important things, to get a good even colour on your meals. You want to mix it fresh every day.
We come on after breeding season. Most of the birds that shed now are young birds, which have coat apart at flight to allow second and third nest of young birds road to grow on. So first and second nest young birds are usually in the shed. I usually then start selecting them, steadying them down. These are 3 cages full of young bullies there. Some young mealy reptiles in this pen here. I catch them open to keep a keen eye of them. Any that starts running off with Lancastosis or enteritis, you can usually pick your problems up a lot early if you've got them in pens or cages in front of you. Then treat them accordingly. When they start to moult, or just before they start to moult, then I put them out in aviaries. But by then my breeding's finished with, and I've moved my adult pairs out into mixed aviaries, and I put all young birds out in aviaries together. I try not to have a crowd of young birds. That is a problem. If you've had a good breeding season, you still overcrowd them, because they don't seem to take to that overcrowding. You do tend to lose a few if you put too many in a pen. So it's important to spread your birds out what you've bred. We go through some more pens there, amelias. Some cinnamons in that pen there, see. Done quite well with mealies and cinnamon reptiles this year. There's 40 odd mealies and about a dozen cinnamons, which without problems we've had this summer has been very good, thanks to Robert and June. Very active and playful bird mealies are. This is down into probably, this is earliest nest, which coming through will look to be some nice young ones. Some of these are well through malts here. You'll see they're showing the lacings and babe and type. Some nice big thick set birds there. Most northern birds have a very early molt, and some of these mealies are through here. What I usually do when they finish moulting is select my best birds for showing, my worst birds to disperse of. Some people may say I keep worse, as we said, and disperse at best. Then I usually put young hens out in aviary, try not to show them, and select a few young cocks to try and fatten up to show with. Try not to put too much weight on young hens, because they are the most important birds for next year. You can start to generally tell them with bib. Cock usually a darker bib and well defined. Hen usually have a brown cast on bib and occasionally have a white surround wrap bib. As well on cap. Hens, reptiles don't have a prominent red cap, and cap stands further back on hens than it does on cock. You get cheek markings as well on most cocks, but you do get odd cheek markings on hens. That's not a lot to go on. You do get a red rump in adult birds, but you don't get that red rump in unflighted birds. Red rumps is not an important factor as people think. That's a nice shot here. There's 2 or 3 winners amongst them. All these mealies now are breeding very much to standard and type. There's not much to pick between them all, and we're seeing more advance in mealy reptiles in recent years than any other bird. Greenies and mealies, that bird that's most advanced in type and quality, far superior now than what they used to be. Odd people will disagree. I've had some nice mealies in the past, but I think mealies I've got now on old are as good as any I've had in the past. It's only that people remember that odd bird from years since. A good friend, old Jim Horse, refers to a mealie which was soft to my heart. Here's going through some abnormal colour greenies in top cage. There's 3 or 4 cages full of silvers, isabels, cinnamons, or satinet. This next cage is some mules and hybrids, a linnet bully there's here. Gowly male, little miniature males. These are some young twites. Some young linnets. And the yellow hammercock. And some young peg goldies. I'm just going to put these out any time now in April to molt. A few young yellowhammers. Colour feed yellowhammers. Sometimes I wonder, we call them yellowhammers but still we make them into orange hammers. These are them young males molting through. They're nearly quite finished molting. You can just see a few pens round the face. That's a yellow here. That's another yellow. See, these are made big, dark, nice males. This comes to a long shot back garden with all aviaries all around garden. Different size aviaries, fancy aviaries. But you all don't need big aviaries and big sheds to enjoy birds. You can get as much enjoyment out of a 6x6 shed and a 6x6 aviary in your back garden as anybody can with a big set of aviaries. Your enjoyment is in just a few birds at the bottom of the garden. Enjoy watching them breed, watching them pair up, and that's the most important thing in bird keeping, is your own personal satisfaction and enjoyment against something out of living, something living. You can appreciate a nice little aviary, few birds, probably more than a big aviary and a lot of birds. When you have a big aviary and a lot of birds, you have a lot of work to do. Introduce a really good friend of mine. We've known one another now, must be 15 or 16 years, Terry McCracken, who I consider to be best breeder and exhibitor in country at present time. How do you think of his development, Terry, since 1981 Wildlife Act, for a better or for worse?
Well, Derek, not many people were in favour of the Wildlife and Countryside Act, as you well know, but there's an old saying which goes something like this, that it's an ill wind that doesn't do anybody any good. And we've had a lot of positive outcomes since the introduction of the Wildlife and Countryside Act. For example, I know fanciers, certainly in my area, who before the Act just kept a mixed collection of birds, didn't breed very many. Nowadays they're specialising in 2 or 3 different species and they're breeding birds in quantity and quality.
Oh yes, tremendously. I mean, greenies and mealy poles in your case has proved its point without a doubt.
Another positive outcome from the implications of the Act is that we've seen the formation of new specialist societies. The Staffordshire one, for example, we've now got one in Lancashire, and look at Yorkshire, the one which you organised. It's booming at the moment.
Yes, yes.
We've had more entries than ever at the All British and certainly the Yorkshire British Bird and Arabic Club shows. Other societies are putting open shows on, so there's been a lot of positive outcomes from it.
Blackbirds in here, Terry. Cinnamon carrycock, a pair of young grizzles, and a cinnamon hen from last year.
Very attractive birds, Derek, aren't they, these grizzles?
Beautiful, I think. Beautiful.
Yeah. I think we'll see a lot more of these in the future, you know.
Hope so. Very much hope so, like.
It gives another bird which we can exhibit as well.
Yes, yes. So 4 young ones this year.
They're easy to keep and breed, Derek.
I find them very easy to keep. Very easy. Just pellets, it went through winter. And breeding season, just a few squats, mealworms, few crickets and egg food. And the rear, fairly easy, fairly easy.
Yeah, and also the long-lived birds as well, aren't they? 7 or 8 years I would think is no problem.
A pair of mealies in here, Dylan.
Aye.
Last nest, the young one's still left in.
You've had a good season of mealies, haven't you?
Not so bad.
Eh?
Not quite as good as you.
You've had some of the nice, haven't they?
Yes.
There's a nice one there in top corner, Derek.
Yes, nice,
Like
nice
that.
laced.
Yeah. Very promising them, aren't they?
And there's some bullies in this next flight here,
Yeah.
see?
Yeah. I like the red, Derek.
Yeah, nicely marked, nice colour.
Yeah.
Nice bib on it. Then here, there's some mutation green finches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A silver hen there, see? And a satin
I think
egg.
they'll come these silvers.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of silvers about. These Isabels and satinets are still to get strongly established, like.
Pretty birds, them silvers, aren't they?
Beautifully marked. I'm surprised that you went to get a lot of these.
I've been up on my own with normal, to tell you the truth. But they are attractive birds. They are nice birds, yeah. Very nice, yeah. Yeah. Where's all these hedge sparrows, Derek?
That many
have a look at
sparrows,
these
I don't know
sparrows.
where to put them
Oh,
all.
good, you've got
That
about
many, I
40,
don't know
50, haven't you?
No, not quite. There's about 35.
35.
Somewhere flat line about, but you never see them.
Yeah,
As soon as you come, they're going back. Yes, that's the pair that's bred most of them in there.
Once again, them are long-lived birds, aren't they, hedge sparrows?
Yes, and they never seem to eat anything. You fill dishes up and they never seem to have it. If you have some greenies in next flight, greenies will clear tray, but hedge sparrows never seem to feed anything.
I once knew a lad who had 4 Lutino hedge sparrows, you know, many years ago. It must be 30 years ago. A bloke called Jack Visit from Goulburn, near Wigan.
Well, these are all fawn carriers or fawn-like.
Yeah,
These are
beautiful
fawn.
birds. Beautiful birds, yeah. Very nice. So you've got a new aviary here, Derek?
Yes, Terence. This is aviary I started making at the beginning of the video. It's basically for breeding just straight British, solid concrete floor to stop vermin, and it's been a fairly good breeding season in this aviary this year. I hope to make it a fraction larger on other side, but this is in my opinion, ideal aviary.
Design's different, isn't it, from what I've seen in the past one?
Yes, with passage down bigger. It needs a fairly big garden to take this type of aviary, but it suits garden.
And what have you actually bred in it?
Done very well. I bred some males again, red starts, seaskins and greenies, and just one nest of greenies.
Yeah,
So it's been good, like.
Yeah, certainly a different design. So you've still got your safety forks in case any get out.
Safety porch and feeding.
Yeah, feeding, yeah. Yeah, different, yeah, very nice.
There is some twites in here as well, which twice nested, and I lost the first nest, and the second nest, chicks were about 4 or 5 days old, and I made a decision to move them, like, so actually partly bred some twites in here as well, but canaries finished really twice.
Or do the twice back in and once there on the nest or something like that?
I think now, Rick, cocks, that's a problem along with cocks driving empty nest again.
Yep. Okay, Derek, let's have a look in this large plant today to see what you've got in there.
Finally we come to the end of this videotape, hoping you've enjoyed it and admired my birds. I hope it may have helped a few people, beginners in hobby. I'd just like to thank Ian Johnson, who works video camera, who's had Hope Patience in World, Victor Carr, Peter Lander, Monty, Pete, Barry Hammond from Mealworm Company, Terry McCracken, and finally wife June and 4 kids. Thanks very much for watching it.
I hope you've enjoyed that. Not much in the way of questions and answers today on today's episode, I'm afraid. Obviously it's quite a long video. But next week, all the messages and the comments that we've received from you guys, don't worry, they will be answered. And again, a look around the shed at some of the birds and the progress we are making so far. Yes, Aton, I need an haircut. It's that time of year where obviously the barbers are still not open yet, so didn't want to look a mess. But anyway, enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, and leave a thumbs up if you have liked this, and leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll try and get them answered next week. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, and enjoy your weekend.